You were 18 years old. Maybe it was a folding table outside a college dining hall. Maybe it was a mall kiosk with a spinning display of branded merchandise, a free t-shirt, a drawstring bag, a water bottle with a logo on it. Maybe it was just an online form that took 4 minutes and promised you were building something important, something adult, something responsible. You signed up for your first credit card. Nobody explained the APR. Nobody explained what utilization meant or how the reporting cycle worked, or that the minimum payment printed on every statement was mathematically designed to keep you carrying a balance at 22% interest for the maximum possible duration. Nobody explained that the score being built in your name, by a private corporation you never agreed to do business with, would follow you into every major financial decision of your adult life, and quietly add tens of thousands of dollars to the cost of each one if you made the wrong moves in the first 5 years. They gave you the water bottle. They kept everything else. Millennials, people currently between 28 and 43 years old, entered the credit system during a period of peak financial product deregulation, peak predatory marketing aimed at young adults, and minimum financial literacy education in schools. The result is a generation carrying an average credit card balance of approximately $6,800, an average FICO score sitting just below the prime lending threshold, and a collective annual interest payment to financial institutions that runs into the hundreds of billions of dollars. This was not an accident. It was a market. My name is Mia. I spent years inside the financial services industry, watching this market get built, segmented, and optimized, watching the exact population of people who got the water bottle at 18 get systematically harvested through their 20s and 30s by products they did not fully understand and a scoring system nobody adequately explained. Today I am explaining it, all of it, the scam, the machinery, and the specific moves that start reversing the damage in 2026 with actual mechanics. The scam starts before the card. Here is what the financial industry understood about millennials that millennials did not understand about themselves at 18. A credit score is not built by avoiding debt. It is built by demonstrating a specific pattern of debt behavior, borrowing, repaying, borrowing again, in a way that the FICO algorithm interprets as low default risk, which means the system requires participation to generate a score. You cannot build credit by being responsible with cash. You can only build credit by using credit products in the right sequence with the right behavior. The industry understood this. So did the campus marketing teams. Getting an 18-year-old to open a credit card is not predatory on its face. Building credit early is genuinely useful. A thick, aged credit file is worth real money over a lifetime of borrowing. The predatory part is what came in the fine print of the card they handed out at the folding table. Average APR on student and starter credit cards marketed to millennials between 2000 and 2015, between 19 and 24%. Average credit limit, $500 to $1,500. Average minimum payment as a percentage of balance, 2%. 2% minimum payment on a $1,000 balance at 22% APR. If you pay only the minimum, that $1,000 balance takes approximately 6 years to clear and costs approximately $1,100 in interest. You pay $2,100 for $1,000 of purchasing power, handed to an 18-year-old with no financial education, framed as a tool for building credit, packaged with a free water bottle. That is not a financial product for young adults. That is a 6-year revenue stream disguised as a starter kit. The score they built for you, and who owns it here, is the piece of the scam that almost never gets said directly. Your credit score is not yours. It is a product owned by the Fair Isaac Corporation, a private, publicly traded company licensed to lenders who pay to use it. You do not pay FICO. You do not have a contract with FICO. You have never agreed to be scored by FICO. And yet, a number produced by their algorithm, using your financial history as raw material, controls your access to housing, transportation, and capital for your entire adult life. The 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, are also private corporations. They collect your financial history not as a service to you, but as a product to sell to lenders. The data is yours in origin. The product is theirs in ownership. And the accuracy of that product, the accuracy of the data feeding the score that controls your financial life, is, by the industry's own reporting, significantly flawed. The Federal Trade Commission found in a landmark study that approximately 1 in 5 Americans has a material error on at least one credit report, an error significant enough to affect the score the report produces. 1 in 5. In a system where the score controls the interest rate on a $300,000 mortgage. In a system where correcting an error requires a formal dispute process that takes between 30 and 45 days per bureau, requires documentation, and has no guaranteed outcome. You were enrolled in this system at 18. You were never told you had the right to audit it. You were never told errors were common. You were never told the corporation scoring you had no obligation to get it right, only an obligation to investigate disputes after you found and reported the errors yourself. That is the infrastructure of the scam. Mandatory participation, private ownership, flawed data, correction burden on the consumer. What the score actually costs a millennial in 2026. Let me build the lifetime number. Because the scam's real scale only becomes visible across decades. The average millennial in 2026 carries a FICO score in the 680 to 710 range, statistically near prime. Not prime. The near prime to prime threshold at most major lenders sits at approximately 720. The difference in mortgage interest rate between near prime and prime in 2026, approximately 0.6 to 0.8%. On a $300,000 30-year mortgage, that difference produces between $38,000 and $52,000 in additional interest over the loan life. The difference in auto loan rate, approximately 4 to 5%. On a $35,000 60-month loan, approximately $4,200 in additional interest. The difference in credit card APR, approximately 4 to 6% on the revolving balance they are already carrying from the starter card they got at the folding table. Total additional lifetime borrowing cost for a millennial operating at 680 versus 720, conservatively between $50,000 and $70,000. Not from recklessness, from a score suppressed by the financial behaviors a poorly designed starter card, and zero financial education produced in the first critical 5 years of their credit history. The water bottle cost $50,000. It just took 20 years to invoice. What actually reverses the damage? Specifically here is the sequence, in order, with the real mechanics. First, pull your actual credit reports from all 3 bureaus at annualcreditreport.com, the federally mandated free report site, not Credit Karma, the actual bureau reports. Look for accounts you do not recognize, balances reported incorrectly, late payments that were not late, closed accounts reported as open. 1 in 5 reports has a material error. Yours may be one of them. Dispute every error in writing to the relevant bureau. Federal law requires investigation within 30 days. Second, address utilization immediately. The single fastest moving lever on a millennial credit score is almost always utilization, the percentage of available credit currently in use. Get every card below 30% utilization. Get the total aggregate utilization below 30%. Below 10% produces the highest scores. This single action can move a score 20 to 50 points within 45 days of the updated balance reporting to the bureaus. Third, request goodwill adjustments on any late payments in the last 24 months. A single paragraph to the creditor's customer service, written not called, requesting removal of a late payment notation as a one-time courtesy. Approximately 35% succeed. One removed late payment can be worth 15 to 35 points on a score, where the difference between tiers is 40 points. Fourth, do not close old accounts. Length of credit history is 15% of the FICO score. An old account with a zero balance costs nothing to maintain and is worth preserving for its age contribution alone. Closing it reduces available credit, increases utilization, and shortens average account age simultaneously. 3 negative score impacts from one action that felt responsible. That sequence: error audit, utilization reduction, goodwill adjustment, account preservation, run over 90 days, moves most millennial scores from near prime into prime range. Which removes the surcharge, which starts recovering the $50,000 premium the scam has been collecting since the folding table. You were not irresponsible at 18. You were undertaught and overmarketed, handed a financial instrument without a manual by an industry that understood exactly how the absence of that manual would compound over the following 2 decades. You are not behind. You've just been reading a map drawn by the people who want you lost. Hit subscribe, because next week I am going inside the mortgage industry, the pre-approval theater, the rate lock manipulation, the fees that appear 72 hours before closing, and showing you every extraction point between the application and the keys. And I'll leave you with this. They gave you a water bottle. They took $50,000. You now know exactly how they did it, and exactly how you start taking it back.